Yeah,
Jasmine spoke highly of you, so welcome to Rock and Recovery. I'm your host, Jay. Today's special guest is, I'm going to say his name is Nate because I don't know his last name, but that's what he typed right there. Nate, free and sober. That's a freaking great thing to be free and sober right there.
absolutely.
So a little bit about me. I did 20 years as an actor, or 30 years as an active addict, 20 years in prison. It led me to all the wrong places, and now here I am trying to help others, sharing stories, letting other people listen to stories, and just trying to help do the next right thing, just giving back.
I love to hear it.
So, why don't you tell me how you got started in this great game of friggin' addiction, and
Yeah.
what led you into it, and how'd you get out of it?
So I have a whole family of addicts. My family's full of convicts and addicts and alcoholics. My mom actually visited my dad in prison when she was pregnant with me. So that's like the first time I was in prison was in my mom's belly. But I started drinking when I was 8. I started sneaking into my mom was on pills and uh, they were kind of successful at the time. My dad had a car stereo company called Rolling Thunder. My mom was a model. She ended up breaking her back and they had a little bit of money, so they were they had the doctors giving all the painkillers, and she was on opiates. And the rest of my family kind of lived separately. They were all addicts, convicts, and we were kind of doing good over here. But drugs and alcohol were still in our lives, and I would sneak into their parties. My sister would be nodded off on heroin, so I would be sneaking off and drinking wine coolers, and that's when I started dabbling. I was 8 years old, and then came a little bit of weed here and there, a little bit of cigarettes, and it progressed from there. I liked the feeling that it gave me, so I would be huffing, I would huff paints, I would whatever would make my mind feel a little bit different, and I started doing the harder stuff around 11. I started getting incarcerated when I was 12. Um,
Wow.
you know,
You
they
started
they
at 12, you 12 years old getting incarcerated?
yeah, and I did 4 years as a juvenile altogether, and 18 as an adult altogether, amounting to 22 years of my life incarcerated. Um,
Wow, that's
I, I
crazy.
I would only get out for I mean, there was like one time I made it 6 months free, but I mean, the shortest I think was 20 days. I did 4 years in prison, got out for 20 days, and went back. So
It's crazy that you say that because I was the same way. I'd get out and, I'd go right back to using my DOC, my drug of choice, which was methamphetamine, and I'd go right back. And, the free world got too much for me, so it's like, I know how to do prison. Let me go right back.
yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's not a conscious thought that you're having, it's a subconscious self destruction because you're so uncomfortable that you need to revert back to what you know how to navigate. For me, like I never said I want to be back on the streets, I want to be strung out, I want to go back to prison, but subconsciously, that's where I put myself. I put myself in a lifestyle that I've been navigating since a child. So progressively, my parents obviously lost their business. My mom dove deeper into from opiate painkillers to heroin and methamphetamine. My dad started manufacturing methamphetamine, so he went from being a business owner to a meth cook. Um,
Wow.
and
That's a
they
big transition.
yeah, and they systematically lost everything. Our house became more and more of a trap house. We went from like a nice neighborhood to a middle class neighborhood to a worse neighborhood. Now I'm a 12-year-old with a pistol in the ghetto. And
Wow.
um, I had a bunch of brothers and sisters. One of my sisters died from heroin when I was in jail. My grandpa died from a heroin overdose. My cousin lost his life in a motorcycle accident when he was on heroin. That's been my life, and it's been incarceration, being back on the streets, in the streets, running amok. you know, obviously when you're 14, you're not working a job. And I dropped out of school in the 6th grade. You know, my first tattoo, I was like 11 or 12 years old, and um, that's the life I knew. I knew about addiction, and it progressed from mind altering substances like pills and mushrooms and LSD to a full blown meth addict. You know, doing meth with my mom, with buying meth for my dad, all my
Wait a minute,
cousins.
your dad's the cook, and he won't even give you no shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying, as a family business, messed up.
Well, he said, but I mean, I was a teenager and so a preteen even, and he's like, I'm not gonna sell you nothing, and I'm not gonna give you nothing. I'm just gonna walk out of the room, and if you want, you know, you could take what you want and leave what you want, and pretend like it's not happening. So he would go out of the room, and of course, I would be like, you know, here's $20, you know,
Right, right.
yeah. And so I mean, it's very dysfunctional, and you know, my dad looked down on needle users. My mom was a needle user.
I
My
was an
dad,
IV user.
yeah, he had kind of morals, like he didn't believe in guns, and I was in the streets, and so I needed a gun. I felt like, you know what I mean? And so he would be like, "Leave your gun out there. You're not bringing this. You're not bringing that." And um, I was in a I was caught in the middle. My mom and dad would cheat on each other. They would talk bad about each other. Our house would get raided by the police. My first time being raided, I was 10 or 11, and you know, they kicked down our door. They broke all of our TVs. They ripped open our couches, broke everything, zip tied us kids. Put My grandma was walking up to my grandma lived 2 doors down, and she was coming to give one of us a birthday cake, and they even had snatched her up and put a pillowcase over her head, put her in handcuffs. So you know,
Wow.
that's kind of my earliest memories. You know, wearing red and getting jumped. You know, by Crips, or wearing blue and getting jumped by Bloods, or being in a Gerson Park neighborhood because I grew up in Vegas. So you know, like you gotta, and in the ghetto parts of Vegas, you gotta watch what you wear, where you wear it, who you talk to. You know, if you're on the east side, if you're on the west side, and so I kind of grew up in chaos, and I would get locked up. I went to Spring Mountain Youth Center, which is it's a youth offender for juveniles. You know, you go from juvenile detention center. It's kind of like the jail for kids. We would be locked down 23 hours a day in there, and I started getting institutionalized because you couldn't have anything in your cell. Like you couldn't even have a Bible, you couldn't have a magazine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're just in there going crazy. And so then you would go to Spring Mountain Youth Center, which was a little more open. They had programs, you know, exercises, sports, stuff like that. But then I would get out and I would go right back to, you know, the same chaos and dysfunction, and I would try to do good for a little while, go back to school, you know, go to try to get a job, whatever the case might be. But I didn't know anything about recovery. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any examples of people that got sober and that were living correctly. You know, like every example that I had was, they're gonna praise you for getting out of prison, because I would see my cousins and uncles and everybody, and they would, you know, they
Hey,
would get out.
congratulations. We're glad to
Yeah,
see you're out. Yeah.
yeah. Hey, here's this, here's that. Like, welcome
Yeah.
home. Here's some food. Here's some dinner. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's a rite of passage to do time, you know. And it's I never had those kind of role models and mentors, and so I got trapped in that pattern. And I would be out for a little bit of time, and then I would go back to juvie, and then I would get out, and I would go back to juvie, and then I would get out, and I would go to Caliente Youth Center, and then I would do Caliente Youth Center. I would get back, and I would fall right back into it every time. And that pattern followed me into adulthood. And, you know, then I'm in county jails and city jails, and I'm in prisons. And now it's just the same thing as a teenager, but as an adult. And I was trapped in this pattern, and it would always start for me with alcohol. And I never admitted that alcohol was a problem. I'm like, as long as I'm not doing meth, heroin, carrying a pistol, but I'm back around that stuff as soon as I drink. Now I'm punching somebody, or it depends really on what is around me. Because if you got
Right.
meth around me when I'm drunk, you know, then I'm convinced that meth is going to make me be able to drive.
And
You
be
know,
able to be drunk. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
you know, like I'm way too drunk. Now I got to go up. You know, now the alcohol wore off and I'm up. And so I got to get back down. So let me do some heroin, you know, and man, that chaos.
Did you ever find yourself like addicted to the game the game, the whole dope game?
Oh yeah, gambling. Girls gambling, running around, just the reputation. Because I would get beat up a lot in fights. Like I couldn't really fight as a teenager, so I would get jumped a lot. I would start carrying a pistol, and then you have like a fear and a respect. When you pretend to be the craziest dude, then it's like now you got respect when you run around, and it's the same when you get to prison. When you first get there, 18, people kind of beat you up and take advantage and try
Yeah,
to
you
prey
definitely
on
get
you.
heart checked.
Yeah, and they try to get you to join the prison gangs and stuff like that. And I never did, by the way. Um, but it's the same thing. And then you start getting respect, and then you start getting keys to units, and then people are like, and when you get out, then it's like people are like, oh, welcome home. Here's some money, everything's free until you get hooked, and then nothing's free anymore. Yeah.
I find that funny because anytime I'd go to prison and then get back out, the very first text I would get, other than the congratulations, hey, I'm glad you're out, or thought you were dead text, would be, hey, you got anything? Hey, you got anything?
Yeah.
That's the very next text I'm getting is, hey, you got anything? Hey, can you hook me up? I'm like, I just got out. I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, you're trying to do.
That would last for like 4 days.
Yep. And you don't have the tools. Like I don't know how it is where you're at, but here we don't really have rehabilitation and we don't have reentry support. And so when you're in prison, it's kind of like a breeding ground for people to like meet other people. And so then you got all these connections that from juvenile, prison, the streets, and that's all you know. And you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're gonna get your hair cut. You might be strong today, but I never had the tools to deal with or the life skills. I've been out for 2 years right now after doing an 8.5 year prison term, and I'm still learning about technology, paying my bills, talking about my emotions. I'm still learning how to navigate technology. I'm still learning how to live a life, but um, after
So
that
what
8.5.
changed this time? What changed? Are you off
Yeah,
paper now, or are you still on parole?
no, I'm off paper.
That's fucking
Yeah,
congratulations. That's hard to do. I
yeah, it
know
is.
because I've been off paper for like close to 4 years, I think. And those first years are just the first two. I was still freaking shooting up. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't go back to prison during that first 2 years because I could have. This last 2 years, I've been totally different because I've been clean and sober, trying to find myself again. So, what changed for you to want to make you be sober?
So I was struggling with addiction this time in prison. I think I came face to face with what addiction really is and my demons. Like I said, I lost my sister to an overdose. I lost a ton of family members. My grandma died, who was like a mom and a dad to me, and she left my mom her house. It became a trap house. They lost the house. Then my mom, brother, and sister are homeless. I've been dealing with a lot of like pain and struggles, and throughout that incarceration, 8.5 years, you do 2 years, you do 4.5 years, they suck, they're hard, but doing almost a decade is a whole different ball game when it comes to what you go through. And instead of sending me to programs, they said, you got a lot of time, we're sending you down south to Southern Desert by Las Vegas. And now you're in riots, there's drugs everywhere, there's meth, there's heroin. And so I jumped right into addiction down there, and now I'm looking at it from a different angle because it's prison. Like you owe a debt, you're gonna get your life taken, like, and so
Yeah.
I would try to get sober and then I would relapse. I would try to get sober, I would relapse. And I'm like, shit, I don't got no control of this, you know what I mean? And my 2-year-old son got brought to a visit. My baby mom was still strung out, and so I got to see her, flailing out and visit. And
Mm.
I think something that really clicked into me was when my 2-year-old son, recognized me when I walk in there, and I broke down crying in the visiting room, and I'm holding my son, and I'm like, dude, I gotta give this kid a better life than I had, and it wasn't enough right then and there to do better because I still relapsed after that. But I think it planted a seed in me that like this kid needs me to break our family cycle. This kid needs me to be a dad, to make sure he goes to school, to teach him right from wrong, to how to be a gentleman. Like, and so I think a decision was made when something broken inside of me started to heal that day, but it wasn't enough. I would relapse. I would relapse. I started going through a lot in prison where the COs they were beating me. They tried to kill me for writing dental grievance. Like I became like an activist. They didn't like my grievances, so they beat me, they drugged me, they transported me between prisons naked, stripped me of my clothes, beat me unconscious. A ton of retaliation, getting beat by guards, retaliatory transfers, things like that. And I got shuffled around from Southern Desert Correctional Center, High Desert State Prison. Then I ended up in a maximum security prison just for my litigation. And from there, I was able to get some advocacy groups to intervene. I started filing more grievances, lawsuits. I started winning lawsuits, and I was able to go to a boot camp, structured living program, which up north, which is night and day difference. Now I'm able to get some programs. I'm able to do therapy. I'm able to do counseling, and then some real changes started because now I didn't have the access to meth and heroin, but I had the access to alcohol, Pruno, and so now I'm realizing how bad my alcohol addiction is. And I mean, I tried to quit and I was so desperate to quit that one day when I got really drunk, I got so depressed because I'm like, I'm never going to get sober. And I tried to kill myself. I literally hung myself and was hanging in my cell, and my cellmate came in and cut me down. And
Wow.
yeah, and there's so many stories like that where like I feel like I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm supposed to be here. Like my divine intervention kept me here. I'm here for a reason. And I still struggle with alcoholism after that. And I always drink to the point of vomiting, of choking on my throw up, having to have my stomach pumped. Then hopefully there's no pills around because I'll have pills in my system. And so I ended up that I would get sober for longer, and then I would relapse on alcohol. And then I was dealing with the shame, with the guilt, with the loss of control, with the lies, the lack of accountability, blaming everybody else but myself and my childhood and my parents. And I shouldn't have hung out
Everything
with
that could go wrong is everything else's fault but mine.
yeah, but mine. And so I did my 8.5 year prison term, and I got out. And my first week out, I freaking got drunk. And I went to a casino, and I convinced myself that I just did all
To
this
win.
time.
You deserve to win.
Yeah, I deserve, like, I should be able to go chill at a slot machine, play a couple dollars because you're addicted to that lifestyle, right? The
Yes.
gambling is a part of it. And so I had a beer, and of course, that beer turns to 2 beers, turned to 3 beers, turned to a bottle of gin, turned to meth, fentanyl, whatever. I was missing for 2 days, stopped going to work, was drinking and driving, and my girl went motel to motel looking for me, my employers.
Wow.
Everybody's like, dude, like he's about to go back to prison, he's about to die. Like he doesn't understand. Like, and my support system, and everybody's like, we knew we know you're strong, but you're not okay, dude. Like you need to get help. You think you got all this figured out on your own, but you don't. Like, and so I agreed with my girl and with my support system that I would immerse myself in recovery, that I would see a therapist, that I would see a counselor, that I would, and I did 90 meetings in 90 days. And I didn't just do it. I got a sponsor. I worked the steps. I started going to therapy. I started unraveling all this lifelong trauma and damage that has just been festering and eating me alive. And I started to forgive myself, to realize, like I deserve to be happy, to be. I started learning about boundaries, setting boundaries, making sacrifice. Like if I know that I shouldn't be in this place, I have no business being in this place. And one of the hardest things for me to ever do was get rid of those phone numbers. There's things that we do that only we know, right? Oh, like I could tell you I don't have anybody in my phone, but only I know if I have a contact in there that it should not be easy for me to go get heroin right now.
No.
I should not be able to say I need some Suboxone or some meth and just to be able to be like here and then have
this person's got it. Oh, wait, hold on. I still know this person on Facebook. Hold on. Let me get a hold of them. Let me Facebook Messenger them real quick. Yeah.
Yep.
I had to So I lived in Colorado. That's where I grew up. I had to move to Florida to get away, and I erased numbers. I did all the things. I erased numbers. I did all that,
Yeah.
yet I'd run into people that would know me. The cops knew my first name. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad when they're saying, "Hey, Jay, how's it going? Have you seen so and so?" It's the halfway house people, the parole people all knew me and knew what I was doing. And they're like, the only way for me to get out was I actually moved to Florida. I had to move states.
Yeah.
And I know nobody that does that shit now. And I'm glad, I'm thankful for that. And then I got tired of being stuck, just being sober.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had that. AA and NA was for the people that are trying to fake it. Coming out of prison, sometimes you're offered that, or oh, you're in a halfway house. Why don't you go to there? People are going there for passes or whatever else, and is where I used to go to sell or pick up. I'll be honest, that's where I
Yeah.
used to go to sell or pick up. So I got tired of being stuck, just sober, not having fun, not living life, not working on myself. And so I got involved with Celebrate Recovery. And, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, it's service, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
so. So to kind of pick up where I am today, I did that 90 meetings in 90 days. I did therapy. I did counseling, and I just started helping people, right? Because like I've been an activist for prison reform. I've been a mentor to people. That's like naturally what I'm doing in the community. Like if I see somebody struggling, I reach out to homeless. Anybody that I could possibly help in the community, I've been helping. And everybody's like, you should start a nonprofit. And so I did, you know, uh, I started my nonprofit. I went and did
Hold
that
on,
whole,
wait a minute. You're fuck addiction?
huh? No,
You're
I'm not. I use that hashtag, right? So
okay.
my online on TikTok is free and sober, but the name of my organization is Push and Pays Project, and I help reentry. I'm in college right now to do peer support. Uh, I'm doing peer support certification. Uh, I basically help people when they get out of prison and mentor addicts is what I do. But in my recovery, that's what I've been doing with service. Is I have been helping people, right? And I've been to France. I got a nonprofit. I'm actually partnered with a bunch of other nonprofits. Like literally this morning, before this, I went to parole and probation, was meeting people getting out of prison. I'm going to programs, to nonprofits. I'm networking. I give people rides, everything that I could
That's
do.
great.
And then we just bought this house, me and my girl. I'm engaged. I'm a homeowner now. I went from sleeping on the streets and jail cells and hospital beds and prisons to now I am a homeowner. I have
I
my own,
think I follow you on TikTok anyway.
yeah,
Or you follow me. I think we follow each other. I was Stronger Together, and I do recovery and mental health lives.
yeah.
So I'm sure I've seen you around.
I'm sure I've seen you on there too, and I've been trying to like build a bigger community on there. I have a lot of prison reform content on there. I actually have two accounts. One's for my nonprofit and one's for myself. And my free and sober account is kind of like more of my prison activism, and I talk about addiction and share my travels and my journeys. And I'm still kind of navigating. I'm doing so many different things, like prison
It's
activism.
hard.
We
Yeah.
have we have a lot going on in our prisons in Nevada. We have, it's March and we've already had 17 people lose their life, and last year
Yeah.
76, which doubled from the year before. And it's barbaric. The medical, the dental, mental health. There's no rehabilitation. And then there's a guy that got out today, 27 years in prison, and they just throw you out. Figure it out.
They do.
Figure
For
it out.
me, I got a $100 gate fee and a bus ticket to downtown Denver, where everybody was getting high out on the street, and the first thing they see is me in my freaking DOC packouts, in my khaki pants and the shirt, the polo shirt,
Yeah.
obvious freaking reject or obvious let go. And they're like, "Hey, can I get you anything?" I'm like, "Nah." The first few times, it's like, "Nah, nah, nah, I'm good." And a bus ticket to go still north to northern Colorado. And about the fifth time, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, yeah, give me whatever you got.
Yep.
And that was my last experience with it. I ended up having to find my wife hanging in my closet for me to wake up, and decide there's a better course of action.
Well, I'm proud of you, man, and I'm sorry that you went through all that. It's one of the things about us is most of us who are lost in this life, we come from trauma, unhealed trauma, and sometimes it takes something like that to get us sober, And I got 2 years now.
I'm working on. I got 2 years on the 15th of June. So
You
yeah,
know, hey, we're
yeah,
living proof, right? We're living
we
proof
are.
and that's what some people just need is an example that it could be done. And I got people that come to me like, Nate, man, I'm sober because of you. And I'm like, what did I do? Right?
Yeah,
How? And they were like, just seeing like, cause people could reach out to me and, you never know the difference that you're making in someone's life. And we see when people mess up and relapse and die or go back to prison, but we don't see when what we help somebody avoid,
yeah.
right? Like if
We
you
don't
help
see the
them,
success.
yeah, well, we don't see you don't see that you just stop somebody from overdosing, that there's a
Yeah,
family that's together, that there's a person free and I don't know about you, but I've lost some people not only throughout the years incarcerated, my family, my loved ones, friends, like so many friends lost their lives. So many. It's just, I can't even begin to list them. There's so many people that have lost their lives or freedom. And since I've been home, people that I knew from prison would get out, they would do good, they would relapse, and they would die because it's not like it was before that.
yeah.
Fentanyl is like, it's killing everybody. And people that I've been helping, some people, there's one guy that I helped him, Nolan, and he was one of the first people that I helped in an official capacity as a nonprofit. And now he has his own nonprofit, Convict Clothing, and him and his girl they buy artwork from people in prison and use the money to help people coming out of prison. And I'm partnered with them, and we're building a big community out here. But I also have people that I helped that relapsed, that went back, or that have died. And we can't help like we someone has to be ready. All we can really do is show them it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Some people, that's
It's
all they
the
need.
hope. It's the hope. And for me, they got acronyms for everything. The acronym for hope is hold on, pain ends. That's the one I choose to use because really, we all need that little bit of hope that there is a better way, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It all boils down to hope. If you don't have hope, then what are you living for?
Yeah, and we need it. We need hope.
We need it.
Yeah, it's hard to get my mom. My mom's homeless in Las Vegas, and it's one of the most difficult things because she's so old now and she's so out of shape. Like she's been doing drugs and alcohol for the last 40, 50 years, So it's like, what does she do now that she's homeless, that she can't work? She can't like she has no chance at like a fulfilling life, And so how do you try to give somebody like that hope of a better future? And it's one of the most painful things for me to deal with. She's in Vegas. I live in Reno now, but she's also got my little brother and sister out there, and they're homeless with her, and they're strung out on meth and fentanyl, and uh, but it's a constant reminder that like that will be me. I have this house. I'm a dad. I have my son. I'm full time in his sports and his life and teaching him right from wrong and giving him a better life than I had. And I'm doing all these good things, but all of it will be gone if I think for 1 second that it's okay for me to pick up a drink. Like playing that tape through, remembering our lessons. Addicts, I think, have something built in that makes them forget every lesson they've ever learned, right? When it comes to that
We
addiction.
get that we get that thought that we can manage, we can handle it. One more time, it ain't big
Yeah,
deal. Look, I've gone this long. I can do that. I
yeah,
can kick it.
yep. And my girl told me, she said, why do you keep trying to fight a battle you never win? She's like,
Never.
you keep trying to win, but you lost. Like, you lost. It's over with. Give it up, move on. And you know what? For me, I could not get past that I would not be able to drink. I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing heroin. I'm not doing meth. I'm not doing that. Like drinking. And so I would tell my girl when I was still in prison, I would be like, hey, like, oh, I'm not gonna drink. I'm just gonna have like maybe a beer at the Super Bowl. but the list would get bigger and bigger. And I was lying to her that I had a problem with alcohol, right? I was lying to myself, to everybody. And I'm like, I'm just gonna, a little bit of wine with dinner, on the weekend. The list grew and grew.
Maybe
and
a margarita,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're just a little shot here like that. And she's like, you know what? I think this list is getting longer and longer. And do we need to talk about this? And I'm lying, of course. I'm like, no, I don't have a problem. Like I'm good with alcohol. And that's after I tried to hang myself.
I'm not an alcoholic. All I do is drink beer. I don't use the hard stuff. All I do is like a couple glasses of wine. I don't drink liquor.
All I have to do is drink less and I'll be fine. And like, when have I ever drank less? I mean, I even in prison, when they would make a batch of Pruno, they would be like, hey, do you want a bottle? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll just buy one, for $10, just set it to the side. And they're like, we'll set you a gallon to the side. And I'm like, bro, like I just want one. And they were like, all right, yeah, no, you don't. You want the whole gallon. Because everybody knew me better than I knew myself. As soon as I have that drink, then I'm buying that gallon, and I became such a problem. I didn't used to be like violent or nothing, but like I became violent. I didn't used to be a needle user, but I became a needle user. I would talk bad about needle users. Then I became one. I'm like, I would never do this till you do it. I would never do this till you do it. I would never do. And it's like, it's progressive, and I haven't done this yet. Sooner or later, I'm gonna do it, because that's like, I'm a junkie, and I quit it. I was addicted to gambling after I quit everything. Like, since I've been home in my recovery, and then I realized, damn, I'm blowing all my money and I'm lying about it to my girl, and I'm
that immediate gratification.
Yeah, and I'm gambling. I'm lying to my girl about it. I'm lying to myself about it. I'm gambling more than I say I'm gonna gamble. Then I'm realizing I don't got no damn money in my bank. So then I'm talking to my girl, and then I go to my sponsor and I'm like, look, and he's like, all right, come to a meeting, and so I talked about it. I think it's something else I've been learning, is being accountable, to being honest with myself, because a lot of addicts in addiction, it's not that we mean to lie to people. It's not that we don't care about people. It's that our addiction is like a split personality, and we're somebody else, and it's more powerful than who we really are. And we have to learn to grieve these things, right? I had to grieve the loss of alcohol from my life. I had to say, you know what, like, this is someone who's been my best friend, my worst enemy, and it has no place in my life anymore. And I had to learn how to set boundaries, to make sacrifices, to be accountable, to be honest with myself and everybody else, brutally honest. Like, hey, I messed up, or I had a thought today about using, and the last thing you want to be told is to that you need to go talk to somebody, or I would rather just hide it and pretend like it never happened. But that's not the way to handle it. We have to be honest and be open about it, and say, I'm struggling.
It is. It's some of the hardest things to do, is to be honest and open and tell people exactly what you're going through, because nobody knows me. You don't know what I'm going through. That's the thoughts that get in our head. Nah, I don't want to be too much. They've got too much going on. I don't want to ruin their day with my bullshit. I can manage it. Yeah. It's, when does that managing it become too much for you? And then next thing you know, you're back in the gutter. You're back in the relapse. It's some of the bravest things that you'll ever do, is be able to talk about things.
Well, especially from someone like you or me that's done time. Like, because it's a whole nother level of screwed up. Like, you don't talk about your emotions in prison. You know what I mean? Like, if my grandma dies, I'm gonna cry against the wall.
I'm gonna beat something up. That was me. I was a fighter. I'm gonna go try to beat something up. I'm gonna toss some tables. I'm gonna go pick on somebody else. Make myself feel better. And it never works out. I feel worse afterwards.
Yeah, and being able to say, I'm not okay, is something I just recently started being able to do. Are you okay? No, I'm not. I literally feel like the world is crashing down on me. As I immerse myself more in it, helping people, I drive a bread truck. I wake up at 2:30 a.m. And so I have all the problems and challenges of of doing all the casinos. By the way, I do all the casino. I'm in casinos every day, which used to be a big trigger for me, but it actually has been a tool for me now because I encounter a lot of homeless people and addicts, and I'm able to utilize my job to reach out to people to give them bread, water, open dialogue about my success story, right? That I could do it. But then I go from that to my nonprofit, to helping people, to being a dad, to showing up to my son. Like, so my life gets over, and I do prison activism, and you deal with social media trolls and all these negative people that are like, do the crime, do the time. If you don't like it, you shouldn't do drugs. You shouldn't drink. It's a choice. Alcohol is a choice. And it's like, I'm arguing with all these people, which steals my peace. And I am just learning how to pick my battles and say, you know what, I'm just going to block you.
Yeah.
And I don't got time for this right now. You're stealing my
The
peace.
worst thing you can tell somebody is, why don't you just quit? Why don't you just quit? An addict. Oh, why don't you just quit? I can only drink. I go to the bar and only drink one or two. Why can't you? Why can't you do that?
Yeah.
That's some of the most fucked up way of thinking, because if I could quit, I would have.
Yeah.
If it was that simple for me, guess what? I wouldn't have spent 20 years in prison
Yeah.
and more as an addict. Come on.
Yep. That's a good point right there, for sure.
It's just crazy to, and then as a drinker, especially if you're around drinkers, why aren't you drinking? You got a problem? You got a problem with this? Why can't I, am I too good to buy you something? Just the cycle of toxic thinking is, we need to learn to be more understanding of people, and I know you probably use this. You have to meet people where they're at.
Yep.
No matter where they're at, you have to meet them there. Non-judgmental, offering a hand. Hey, can I help you today?
Yeah.
And that's all it takes.
Yep. And sometimes, a lot of us, we are different, and we have to accept that everybody's path to recovery is not the same. And I'm learning a lot about harm reduction and the MAT program, and I'm realizing that there's a lot of stigma even in the recovery community with people who use subs or methadone to get sober. And I think it's really different for me because of the level of addiction I've had in my life. And if my mom would get on Suboxone,
absolutely, 100% support that.
If my sister could have got Narcan, so nobody could tell me that Narcan is enabling addicts when my sister would be here if she had Narcan. My grandpa would be here if he had Narcan. And it's, everybody has a different path. 12 steps don't work for everybody. Some people need church. Some people need a community. Some people need just service. Some people, and not an excuse, right? Some people are like, it doesn't work for me. And you're like, well, why not?
Right.
Like, but we got to meet people where they are and find a way that works for them. They're not just using, hey, that doesn't work for me as an excuse for it not to work. Some people just need different roads, and
they just really need more understanding. And I'm a big supporter of whatever gets you to be able to manage the day sober and clean. And I will say, if you're on the MAT program and you're doing it as the doctor prescribed, it's a medication.
Yeah.
As long as you're not abusing it and you're taking it daily like you're supposed to, it's a medication. Congratulations. Now let's work on getting you off that. Let's work on tapering. And
a lot of people don't realize that you can't just do subs and you're okay now.
No.
Right? Like it's harm reduction. It's supposed to be counseled with
therapy,
recovery. Like there's supposed to be a plan. And some people, they just, I had a guy that got out and he just got out of prison and he's in a reentry program, right? A halfway house. And he goes and gets on Suboxone just because he wants to get high. And I tell him, I'm like, this is a bad idea. Like, you're not coming off anything. You're not on anything. Like what? And you're not doing the counseling. You're not doing none of the work. You just want subs. And like within a month, he was on the run, and the choices that we make is we don't realize sometimes the impact of a little choice that we make. Going and hanging out with this person, doing this, being around the wrong people, places, and things. We don't realize the impact of that.
It's a lifestyle change. We have to, if you're in recovery, if you're trying to get clean and sober and stay clean and sober, You've got to change your entire lifestyle. Entire lifestyle. Change your perception, change everything that you're thinking about because you thought it wrong. Obviously, you've thought wrong for this long of a time because it hasn't worked, so try it, try something different. Try something
Yeah.
different.
I don't know about you, but now that I have 2 years of sobriety, like I couldn't imagine going back to that.
Dude,
I never had a week. I mean, I never had a month sober.
I
And
never could string 2 days together. I'd get in the holding tank and then to whatever unit, and I would be high. You
yeah.
know,
And if you didn't have nothing
I was
else,
not able
coffee.
to string 2 days together. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a fact. I couldn't. In prison, it was easier to get than on the streets. On the streets, I didn't have to go. It was being brought to me. It's like, hey, Jay, hey, you want to sell this for me? You need some? What, And it was the lifestyle. You got to change the entire thought process, your entire perception, your entire lifestyle. The choices, the smallest choices lead to the biggest changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about breaking that stigma around us. Like people say that we're selfish because we choose addiction, and they don't realize, like, if I was selfish, I would be sober. I would be
Yeah.
going to work. I would be like, if I was truly selfish, I would be sober. But instead, I'm killing myself.
Yeah.
Instead I'm miserable. I got pick marks on my face. I'm underweight. I just lost freaking 80 pounds. I'm greasy. I can't get clean no matter how many showers I take. I got a backpack. I'm running the streets with freaking dilated pupils, and like, I don't want to live like that. I feel like I become a creature. I'm a different
Yeah.
person, and I hate that version of myself. So if I was
Yeah.
really selfish, and so normalizing recovery too, like, I walk around and I've talked to millionaires that I associate with, and from a business standpoint, and I deliver bread and I'm doing all these things, and they're like, hey, I seen your TikTok video, and then we are in a dialogue, or I'll go into a place and they'll have beer everywhere, and I'm like, I'm in recovery, and they're like, what? Like, you're in recovery? Yeah, I've been to prison. You've been to prison? It's like, there's so many people that are serving your food, that are cleaning the hotels, that are the janitors. There's so many people that own businesses that are all around us that that are in recovery, but they don't talk about it. And so
Right.
it's not really normalized the way I think it's starting to be, between Facebook, TikTok, all these nonprofits, recovery community. Like, we're talking about it, and we're realizing that there are so many people throughout everywhere that are
Yeah.
addicted to something, that know somebody that's been incarcerated, that struggles with these mental health issues, and we're all on the same page. If we want a better community, we need to come together as a community and stop fighting against each other, right, on these things, and just come
I
together and
think a
help
lot
each
of
other.
it came down to the anonymous part, because the fear of judgment back in when
Yeah,
AA and NA started, the anonymous part carried over to today. So it's not that big of a problem. We don't know who's in recovery and who's not, who's had a problem and who's not, because there's a lot of judgment. And that judgment, I think, is where it stops people from going into recovery, is being judged by others, being judged by their peers, their family members, whoever it may be, that their work employees, employers, just the community you're around, because all of a sudden addict recovery means bad
yeah,
person right there. Stay away from that person. He's in recovery. Oh no, you're cussing at me or something. I'm proud to be in recovery. I'm
yeah, me too.
proud of the path that I chose now today than 2 years ago, you know? And I think there needs to be more stories, more awareness, more it being brought to the public's attention more. It's okay to be in recovery. It's okay to be in recovery. It's
Yeah,
okay.
normalize it. We're warriors.
Normalize that shit.
You know.
Absolutely. It's okay.
Yep.
You struggle, it's okay. It's okay. What are you going to do now though? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
That's the next step.
And relapses too. Some people, they give up. I did it. I said, you know what? I relapsed. Well, it's over now. Now I got shame. Like, how
Oh
many
yeah.
times? How
Might
many
as well
times?
go full out.
Yeah. Now it's full throttle, and I might as well not go to work. I might as well go get a gun and a screwdriver and a crowbar and a backpack and never mind that I got people that depend on me, that count on me, and that stigma, I think, drowns us further every time that we relapse. And what I'm learning in my peer support classes at UNR is like that as long as we don't use it as an excuse to relapse is a part of our journey. And I think that my relapse when I came home, it taught me a lot, and I learned from it. And I was ashamed, of course, like I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to look nobody in the eye. I didn't want to be here anymore. I'm like, dude, like I can't live with this. And everybody just kept telling me like it's okay. Like it's not about how many times you fall, but how many times
How
you
many
get
times
back
you get
up.
back up?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I don't think anybody that relapsed and got back into recovery are some strong people. A relapse doesn't have to be your path to recovery, but if it is, okay. It's okay. We're human. We're not going to get anything right ever the first time. And if you do, you're a rock star. Okay.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to build up it's courage to say, hey, I need help. I need help. I was doing okay, and maybe I didn't learn something. Maybe I got something wrong. Maybe I didn't put in enough effort. And this time I'm there. This time I'm going to do it all the way, 100%, as much as I can. And when you start being desperate, I think you have to be desperate. And that's when the true recovery starts.
Yep. I believe that too. And sometimes that's not enough.
Sometimes it's not enough.
Sometimes it's not enough. Like my dad even told me. My dad ended up getting sober, and he got out of prison, and he's like, man, where is your rock bottom? And I'm like, Dad, I grew up in rock bottom.
Yeah.
Like what? They say rock bottom has a basement. Like I was somewhere in a dungeon underneath all that, like forever. And I was comfortable there. And then I would try to climb myself out, and I would never make it, man. And it's like, really, these life skills that I'm learning right now is what I'm really trying to teach people that come out of prison. It's because we don't have. If you grew up on the streets and incarcerated, you don't have basic life skills. You don't. I don't know how to manage my emotions, and I get freaked out in Costco. I've had panic attacks, like to where I've been hospitalized with panic attacks, and I thought I was having a heart attack, but like my anxiety is just like through the roof, and I didn't know how to tell people that I'm not okay until you start having those safe places of people that you could really go to and say, like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, and I don't need a solution from you. I just need to tell you that, like, I'm not okay right now. And sometimes just saying it, just being able to tell someone I'm not okay, I'm struggling, I'm depressed. People don't know when I'm depressed because I'm smiling, I'm laughing, and they're like, Nate, no freaking way he's depressed because I'm telling you a joke.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing.
For me, I still struggle with a lot of anxiety going to new places, going to fucking Walmart. I hate going grocery shopping because that means I got to go to Walmart. And then that entails all these people that I don't know, the place that I don't want to be. And so I got to go in there like I own the place. Like I was going from one yard to the next. That's too hard for the yard look. I do. I got to go into a place looking like that. And, so nothing bugs me. You got to put on that prison mask going for me. But I'm a nice guy. I'm a conversationalist. I like to talk to people. I don't necessarily like people, but I like to talk and I like to converse and I like to joke around and have fun, and so going into a new place, I've got to be that, that prison look, and maybe not even the prison look. It's just that look that I own this place. This place is mine.
It's a natural response, I think. And I actually learned from my therapist that I didn't realize that I would be scowling, and I would, have my fist balled, and, you get that. And it's a survival technique. You know what I mean? Like, you don't fuck with me right now.
Yeah. Or you go out to eat and your hands are up on around your plate and you're eating.
Like that.
Yeah.
And you got to eat fast because most prisons chow halls, you have like 5 minutes to have all this food eating. So you're like,
I've just learned recently to slow down eating. Is like, it's not a race. It's not a race. And,
yeah,
I don't think is so built in because all the drama happened in the chow hall too. Who
yeah,
wants to be around that crap? I don't
yeah,
want mace in my food. I'm sorry. I don't need some
yeah,
OC pepper spray in my food, you know, because
yeah,
if it happens in the chow hall, you're not getting fed again.
yeah. Well,
You
and they
know,
used to unload rounds on us in the chow halls at High Desert in Vegas and chow halls. And so when you walk into the chow hall, you see BBs everywhere. And I remember they wouldn't shoot warning shots even. I mean, some chow halls said no warning shots. So as soon as they see something, it'd be bam, and then people would get their eyes shot out right next to you, and you're looking at all this
Yep.
blood. And then this dude's got it like in riots, jump off like that. And so you're
Yep.
never comfortable because like I remember one day I was just walking back from a shower, and boom, dude, we're getting stabbed. We're at war with another race.
You
And
can't
it's
walk
like,
back to the shower in shower shoes. You got to put on your boots coming out of the shower.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's
And,
crazy.
and then that's built in that, now I'm learning about how your amygdala is now everything that you're responding to in life is coming from your amygdala. It's the fight, flight, or freeze. And you're not using your frontal lobe and you're trapped and you got to rewire your brain. And, we started to talk about it earlier, but, um, having 6 months sober, right?
Mm.
Where you start to wire your brain the way that it's supposed to be wired. Then you get to a year, and you'll have thoughts like, man, it would be nice to have a beer right now. But you develop tools to play the tape through to realize it's your addiction. And once I had 2 years in recovery, now I'm starting to heal. I'm starting to heal from that trauma. And I'm starting to recognize, like, if I hear a police siren and my amygdala starts to go in and my heart starts to pound, and I tell myself, like, dude, you're okay. When someone looks at me, it's not that they're trying to like size me up, because that was something I struggle with. And by the
Yeah,
way, I use headphones when I go into stores still.
I do too.
Yeah, I
I
put
do
I
too.
put music on.
Earbuds, whether they've got anything on them or not, I'll put them in so that way nobody tries to talk to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and for me, music in prison and music growing up, it's always been kind of an anchor, right? It's an escape. I would sit in that empty cell with nothing but my music, and I would be free for a little while. And it's the same thing when I go into a store, to be able to focus on the music, let the music put on some calm music, because sometimes I want to listen to like gangster rap, even though I'm going to feed homeless people, you know, or like hardcore rock, or, it's like sometimes just listen to some chill music and allow your mind to have a little bit of peace.
It is. It's very true. How did you manage triggers early on in your recovery?
My recovery community, really. I had a lot of people keeping me accountable. I was accountable for my time and my finances, and I really immersed myself in programming. I work with my sponsor. He's one of my managers, which has been difficult sometimes, because I could talk about something unrelated to recovery, and he'll be like, that's that addicted mentality." I'm like, "No, bro. I'm like, literally, this is work related." But triggers. I personally, I had to separate myself from a lot of things,
Yeah.
which I never did in the past. I tried to isolate myself from those triggers, which is a lot harder in alcohol, because you walk into a grocery store and there's an alcohol aisle, then there's
Yeah.
alcohol before you pay, then there's alcohol
Yeah.
where you pay, then there's
Yeah.
alcohol past where you pay, then there's alcohol at the door,
Yeah.
and everybody's drinking, and it's like, damn, I just want a beer hella bad, you know and so for me, dealing with that, I started to really have to immerse myself into my recovery, and really play tapes through. We talk about these cliches, just for today, one day at a time, this too shall pass, play the tape through. But until you really utilize those little cliche statements, you won't realize how powerful they are, you know?
Very
And
true.
and so I started to see some beer, and I would imagine, it hitting my esophagus and my stomach, and feeling high, and like,
Mm.
but I started to replace that, and I would play the tape through, and then I would imagine myself pissing my pants.
Mm.
You know,
laying out in the gutter drunk,
yep.
puke all over.
And vomiting on my throat and
Yeah.
hanging and imagine me being I've coached fourth grade basketball since I've been home, and that's the man I want to be. And that's I will do anything. Like if you are my family member and you compromise my sobriety, I have no choice but to put on my oxygen mask,
Yep.
because I'm good to I help too many people, and too many people depend on my recovery as
Right.
a beacon of hope for me to be like, I literally go by free and sober on TikTok. Can you imagine if I relapse and I'm freaking back on the news? You know,
Yep.
Then it's like that hope that I just gave people is gone.
Yep.
And so triggers for me, it's life or death. It's sink or swim. I have no more chances left. I just did 8.5 years. I faced life on a nonviolent crime. Uh, I was fortunate enough to have my current employers. I worked for them before I relapsed and went back. I was looking at life as a habitual offender, and they paid an attorney $25,000
Wow.
to get me out of a life sentence. I still got almost a decade, but I'm here right now because of
Yeah.
them. And they believed in me. My girl believed in me, and I didn't believe in myself.
How amazing is it when you have other people believing you when you don't believe in yourself?
Yeah,
It's fucking crazy.
yeah. I don't know what you see in me, but I don't see it. And they're like, "Well, you will." And right now, I'm like, I go around and I tell people, "Can you believe I just bought a house?" They're like, "I always knew you would," and I'm like, "Really?" Because I didn't.
I sure in the hell didn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the other day, like a little bit, probably about 6 months ago, my mom, I live close to my mom, but far enough away. And I went over there for something, and she's like, Jay, just take my car and my credit card and go to Walmart and pick me this up. I'm like, wait a minute. You're giving me your car and your credit card? I'm like, there's something this does not compute to me.
yeah. Like, go grab this out of my purse, and I'm like,
Is that a test? Are you testing me right now? Because
yeah, we
here's
have
your whole purse.
yeah, and I know that. Do you ever feel like you gotta, if you walk into a store, you have to buy something so you don't look like you're
So you
stealing?
don't look suspicious. Yes.
Yeah, I keep
All the
my hands
time.
like, I keep my hands like,
Yep.
I don't want nobody to think I'm stealing. Or when you're driving, there's a cop and you're like hands like this and a seatbelt, or it's like I'm not even doing nothing wrong, but I'm so embedded in my brain that about
I'll
that
keep my
lifestyle.
hands in my pocket, and
Yeah,
as soon as I get to, I can't go to the self checkout lines because
yeah.
no, that's I got to go to the ones where they actually check the shit out. It's crazy. There's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to touch too many things, and if I touch it, I have to put it in the cart. I can't put it back.
Yep.
It's just weird.
Now I gotta buy it because I touched
Yeah.
it. Or,
Yeah.
they're gonna have loss prevention come over here. I told my girl one day we were driving and I was looking in the mirror because I don't know about you, but that tweaker mentality of looking in the mirror.
Everything's a cop behind me. Everybody's a cop.
And she's like, "You're not being followed," and I'm like, I was like, "You never know, like, I mean, it's not being paranoid if people are really out to get you, you know."
Yeah. That's the same thing I used to say. It's same thing. It's that whole lifestyle. So what would you say to anybody out there that's struggling with addiction, struggling with just mental health right now, and trying to remain sober or sober curious? What would you say to them?
You're not alone, and there's people. There is a whole community of people that will be here for you, and give yourself a chance. So many of us quit before we ever give ourselves a chance. Give yourself a year in real recovery, and it will blow your mind what you're capable of. A lot of us, we don't think that it's possible, but if you or me can get sober, anybody can get sober. You know what I mean? Like if this little, I was an 8-year-old freaking alcoholic, 11-year-old junkie, a 12-year-old criminal, a 12-year-old convict, grew up 22 years incarcerated, and I have been addicted to gambling, to heroin, to meth, to pills, to everything that you could list on the schedule, narcotics, to alcohol. I've been addicted to it. And if I could do it, anybody could do it.
Anybody can.
And you're not alone. Like, that's a lot of us, we feel like we're alone, whether it's depression, anxiety, addiction. We feel like we are an island and there's nobody that could possibly understand what we are going through. But that's not true. Like, there are many of us who have been right where you are. And if we could do it, you could do it. And we're here to help, like anybody at any time. can reach out to me through Facebook, through TikTok. I give out my personal cell phone number on my nonprofit business cards, Push and Pay's project. And people get tripped out because I'm like, that's my cell phone number on there. And they were like, you give out your cell phone number? And I'm like, dude, I'm available. Like, if you're struggling, if you're sad, if you feel like you can't handle this, reach out to somebody. There are people that care. We have a distrust for people too. Like people are going to take advantage of me. They're going to use me. They're going to use it to their advantage. They're going to want my money. And it's like, there are good people.
And 90% of the people are good. There's only a handful that are actually going to try to, but it's that handful of people that ruin it, that can ruin it. But I don't know. It doesn't let it happen anymore. People are people.
People are people. There's good people.
I believe in Celebrate Recovery, and we have this guarantee. We got a misery back guarantee. Try 6 months. If you don't like it, we guarantee your misery back.
Yeah, exactly. And give yourself time. Like, so many of us quit before we give ourselves a real chance. And I'm learning a lot about, like I said, about the amygdala, about the frontal lobe, about synapses. And you have to rewire that brain to where your first thought when you see alcohol isn't to do alcohol, but it's to stay away from it. Yeah. Your first thought when somebody, calls you a puto, or a bitch, isn't to punch them in the mouth. It's about making good choices and rewiring our responses to trauma, to grief. We look for that parachute. We look for that excuse. And it's like, well, my grandma died, but my sister died, and I might as well get high. I just got out of prison. I might as well celebrate. I'm bored. Yeah. I need something to do. I don't feel good. I don't want to manage the emotion. And we look for any excuse to just stop, and give yourself a real chance to rewire your brain's responses because you start to think clearly. And I told my girl,
it takes a while.
There was 2 days ago, man, I felt so positive and so good that I told my girl, I feel high right now. Like, I feel high because I can't, like, I have so many good things happening in my life. But the day before that, I really thought I could not go on anymore because I had too much going on, too much stress, being overwhelmed. And I try to tell myself, this too shall pass. Yeah. Where you're at is not where you're going to be. You got to keep pushing through what you're going through, grow what you go through, and push and pays. That's the whole concept behind my movement, is just keep pushing forward, push and pays. That's why it's the Push and Pays project. Like, I'm the proof of, you push through that, you push through, and you're going to get to where you need to be.
I like to say, we're not where we want to be. We're not where we used to be, and we are exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yep, exactly.
I want to thank you, Nate, for coming on the show at such short notice. Thank you, Jasmine. Everyone's Addicted. She's an awesome person. If you haven't checked out her show, check out her show. But thank you, Nate. Our time's ran out. I really appreciate you being on here and sharing your experiences, bro. I follow you on TikTok. I'll be checking in on you, bro. You're awesome in my book. Congratulations on that 2 years. I know that's a milestone. That first year milestone was like all the stress in the world was on that first year milestone. This one's going to be easy. I'm just happy and I'm proud of myself for making it this far. And I'm proud of you too, bro.
One day at a time, man. One day at a time.
That's all we got.
Yep.
And on that, we're out of here. I'm your host, Jay. Keep rocking your recovery. Check out Nate, Free and Sober, on TikTok and a bunch of other platforms.
Thank you.